All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to episode number 44 of Reptiles and Cocktails. Another awesome guest that we're about to meet today. A lot of you guys, she may be a new face to you, but if you follow on Instagram, and I was just sharing this with her, and those of you who follow Reptiles and Cocktails know, it's important that we show all elements of who is actually in our hobby in order for our hobby to survive. So I'm constantly looking at people, watching them grow, what they do, how they move, all that type of stuff in the reptile community. And those are the people that I like to bring on to Reptiles and Cocktails. I love bringing on new faces. For one, it gives them exposure. For two, honestly, it helps give me exposure as well. But most importantly for me, as that person grow, we always hear people talk about who helped them along the way. And I always want to be just a small part of someone's lives who helps them along the way. And so if Reptiles and Cocktails is that avenue, that's the avenue that we want to drive on, right? So I absolutely love that. But I find her phenomenal. You're going to meet her today. She carries a level of confidence and swag that I like to see, especially in our younger people who are doing the reptile thing, because those are the ones who's going to make this hobby grow. Emilio always says what he wants to see is this hobby to grow, and there's a lot of facets to that. What I think is important is a facet of positive young people, because those who are almost 50, we are half a century. We're not going to live most likely another 50 years. I don't care what this skin look like. We're not going to live another 50 years. So we got to make sure that the people who are with us or people who are coming up in age brackets beyond us, that they are empowered and that they have the tools that they need to be successful. And I like to bring those people on. And she's just going to be another one of those people that you're going to meet and you're going to love. I remember bringing on, who was it? It was O'Callahan. So when I brought her on, a lot of people didn't know who she was. I loved her because she was an extremely talented iguana keeper. To date, my top 3 Reptiles and Cocktails is Cass, who never did my show, who never did a podcast. Cass Velez, who is the wife of Samson Pruitt, one of the biggest retic breeders out there. Second, Bosa Balls, who was refusing to do my podcast, who is now the man engineering in my background, and on everybody's podcast, life-changing. And my third one was actually Callahan. So I really, really love the fact that my top 3 Reptiles and Cocktails is not Aussie boys. They're 4 and 5, and Kevin McCurley. It is the people that no one knew. So I try to keep bringing that mix to you guys because I think it's absolutely awesome and phenomenal. So what I'm going to do is, y'all know, play my video. Y'all can groove out to the music, and then I'm going to bring her on, and then we're going to give some shout outs to the people who are already in the chat. But I want to start with these first 3 because they've been here an hour ago. Chantel, hey sis, Zach, bro, Zach is going to be on my show, y'all. I'm going to have Zach on sometime in January. Watch my work. Bosa, tell Zach, watch my work. And then Ron also has been on the show. So those are the top 3 who just been waiting for like an hour. So I appreciate that. And then everybody else just kept coming on as well. This is going to be a dope episode. So stay tuned. And we're just going to go ahead and kick it to my love. All right, I'm sorry, y'all caught me still grooving. I'm still grooving. That's my song, y'all. That is one of the best YouTube approved intros out there. Don't y'all steal it. I don't have that copyrighted like everything else. That be on YouTube. But I love it. So to no further delay, we're going to bring TYanna on now. And this is going to just be super duper awesome. Hey there.
Hey, what's good?
So we're going to go right into it. What I want you to do is first to tell the people, you know, your name, who you are, where you from, what you do, and then we'll get into like how did you get into reptiles? Those 4 things.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is TYanna Morrison. People call me TMO. When I played basketball when I was younger, my coach acted like she couldn't say TYanna, so she was like, "What's your name?" I was like, "TYanna." She was like, "Last name?" I said Morrison. She was like, "TMO." So ever since then, she called me TMO, and that has resonated throughout the way. But TYanna, TMO, either one is fine, and that kind of brings up the name of my actual morph area where I sell my reptiles and things like that. So TMO Morphs is where I kind of got that name from, with having my name and then having morphs. So it kind of means like too many obsession morphs, because I'm trying to kind of keep my hands in everything, different morphs and things like that. I don't have one specific one that I'm tailored to. So I know when I start breeding and things like that, I want to kind of be everywhere. So that's where the TMO stands for, too many obsessions as well. But besides that, I'm from Houston, Texas. If anybody else, that's where I'm from. And you might hear my accent throughout the way. People always say I have an accent or I have my own language. So just keep up with me if you can.
I actually was here. I thought I was saying Atlanta now. So
people don't know where I'm from, and that's what's so funny because I travel a lot. Like I've lived in Cali for a little bit. I lived in Las Vegas for a little bit. So I kind of have picked up a couple of different things. So I'm just, I guess, a gumbo pot at this point.
Yeah. So for me, when people say they hear the Baltimore accent, it's crazy because I don't hear it from you. Yeah, I don't hear it. I hear my North Carolina accent because that's where my dad was from, and I hear my DC accent. I hear my Baltimore sometimes. Yeah, Baltimore
I don't know how
sometimes.
North Carolina people sound, so, but I definitely can feel that Baltimore DC side, definitely.
Okay. Now, you put on some club music, you want to know that I'm straight from Baltimore. Like, I lose it. So, awesome. So, we're going to get into your reptiles and everything, but I want to start with shouting out some of the people in the chat. Maki is number 4 today. You must have had your long set, sis. Hey, Ken. Bosa Jr. Hey, little brother.
What's up, y'all? Thank you, everybody, for joining. That's what's up.
Hey, Stan. All right, so I have to make sure I look at my phone too, because of course you're gonna bring your crew, and I got to make sure that they have moderator rights. So we have the real.
Yeah, the real. Yep. What's up, Carl?
Thank you for coming through. Thank you for supporting. And we have, of course, Bosa, who's also in the back. And then we have my bro. Let's go, T Keys. I think might be on his way to a show, already at a show, but he ain't gonna miss it. Zach, bro, Zach, you heard what I said?
Oh yeah, that's my bud. What's up, Zach?
Oh, is it? Okay, text Zach and tell Zach how easy this is after we get on.
Zach, don't back out. Don't back out.
Zach, you're coming on. I'm gonna have to do you like I did both. So I'm just gonna show up and advertise it. You can't leave me hanging.
You're not gonna have a choice but to get on.
All right, don't you fall. Let's see, Rob Elmore. That's a new.
Yep. That's one of my audiences. What's up, Rob?
Thank you. Appreciate you for coming through. Rock was good, bro. He's gonna be on in January. Wear them big ass glasses. Dre, go to hell. I have contacts on today. All you need to worry about is I can see.
That is hilarious.
I can see. Wait a minute, Dre, look at my lashes. I couldn't wear my glasses and the lashes. It was touching the glasses. So I got my
I hear that all the time. That is so funny.
He make me sick. Hey, Nene. All right, let's see. I don't want to miss anybody before I start, because once I get started, we're going to be rolling. Hey, Paul. Hey, Paul. Hey, Paul. GP. Gershon in the house. The bro. Gershon, you got to see your girls, man. They look so good. They are both now 450 grams. I am convinced that, I don't care what nobody say, Gershon got the best single gene clowns out there.
I need a
That's
clown.
all I'm going to say.
I've been looking for
Look, and I got snakes from everybody. I'm going to tell you the best single gene clowns out there. I mean, they got some hats, but visual single.
Yeah.
Dope.
I got to check it out. That's next on my list. I got to check it out.
Hats and tails. And hey there, Jess. Oh, we got Delvin.
Oh, that's my mom. That's my mama. Hey,
mama. I love it. Hey, Desi.
That's my best friend, Sia. What's up, Sia?
So I'm going to be right now, so y'all understand. Y'all might look like y'all not in the same color as everybody, but when she starts talking, I go through this chat, and you all going to be blue too. Y'all going to be moderators and family of Reptiles and Cocktails, and you can come through anytime you like.
Come through.
Anytime. India, girl, you got the love. You bringing in the peace. I love it. That says a lot about who you are. We're going to get into that for sure. Rob, for sure. Rob Elmore here. Oh, Keith said no show today. That's next weekend. Okay, good. So you here. Keisha, she's on her way home. She has to take her. Okay, great. So you here. This is going to be a good one, bro. They all good, right? But
yeah, they are good. They are good.
It's always good when like I feel like that little tingle. And
Oh yeah.
Hey, Sloan. Gang, Desi. J. Rel Joseph. I see her too. Right.
That's awesome.
Monday, make sure y'all check in to Nicole. Yes. Look, I get so caught up into my guests. I forget about me sometimes. I'm going to be having me a monumental Monday night, 9 p.m.
Oh yeah, that's
Eastern
good.
Standard Time. Tread Talk with MJ. That shit is, that shit's going to be kicking, okay?
Well, I got to be there.
I have to be there.
I have to be there.
It's going to be radioactive.
That's what's up.
All right. Yeah, subscribe. So let's get into it. So one of my first questions is, first of all, I appreciate all the love and support that your family and your friends are giving today. That's important. It's always good to have the support of our family and friends.
Definitely.
Period. So let's talk about, when did you first realize that you were in love with reptiles?
Okay. I knew when I was a little kid, like every time we went to the zoo, in the Houston Zoo, the reptiles are kind of like ducked off in a way. And I know every time before I left the zoo, I would want to see the reptiles. So like, no matter what, I would always go through and I would want to go see them. So that kind of was my main attraction. Started when I was a little kid. Now, I kind of didn't pick it up because my parents were kind of skeptical over snakes, of course. And I never really was interested in it, kind of let that, thing go, but I knew I had a passion. So started back up when I was in college. I went to Prairie View A&M University. It's an HBCU in Texas. Okay. And I went there, and one of my homeboys, he had a pinstripe male snake. So I was like, oh, okay, that's what's up. Let me see it. So I used to babysit this snake, right? And like legit, I started falling in love with the snake. So a couple of months afterwards, I got my first snake after doing a bunch of research. My first snake was a banana inchy pastel male. His name is Pudding, and I fell in love with him. Like he kind of like shocked me at first. When I first got him, I got him out the bag, and he was like just moving around, head up, just like he'd been there before. I was like, okay. I was more scared of him than he was scared of me. So I was like, that kind of was a little bit new to me. So we grew together, and of course, being in college, going through the ups and downs of being an engineer, we just developed a very good relationship. And ever since then, I mean, I bought him in 2020, and 2 years later, I have 9 snakes. So you can just tell how he kind of opened me up to that, and it really kind of killed any negative things that I had in my head, besides me having a prior passion that I could really have this animal and I could really grow and things like that. Thanks for dropping.
She just slid that in. Engineer, dope as hell. Okay, dope as hell.
Yeah.
So can you tell everybody what you do outside of the reptiles, real things?
For sure. So when I was in school, I majored in computer science. So I have a computer science background, bachelor's degree, and right now I work for a tech company in Houston as well. If anybody knows of HP Inc., I work for Hewlett Packard. So yeah. I run my company very well. I love it there. So yeah. But kind of what I do, I'm like a data analyst and an automation engineer. So of course, a little coding in different languages like JavaScript. I also write some different things in like Power Query, using Microsoft tools very heavily as well, and providing HP numbers when it comes to those different KPIs, so key performance indicators of where we need to be going to grow the business. Not to get too geeky because I can, but yeah, that's what I do.
Awesome. So I always joke about when people would say, "Oh, you do this or you do that." I always go engineering because, first of all, it takes a lot of math. I hated math in school and
Yeah.
science.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing when we have young colored people in it. Like, to be honest, because that wasn't dominated like it is now by.
It's still not. It's still not. It's still not. And that's kind of what I do on the side as well, with trying to bring people that have never been in tech before into STEM, especially diverse candidates, because the field is not filled up with a lot of different diverse candidates. Like me, I'm the only African American person on my team. My team is like 16 people. So just to piggyback off of that, like I really try to do different things like resume critiques, mock interviews, going to engineering conferences, talking to students, LinkedIn as well. I'll definitely drop my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn name is TYanna Morrison on LinkedIn as well. Any resume booster, any help that y'all need. Just besides that, I have a very big passion in doing that as well. And also teaching different tech classes too. So I'm only 24 and I got to sharpen my iron and keep it sharp. Come on now. So
great job, mama.
Come on now. But yeah, that's it.
Takeoff, man.
Let's try. Before we go any further, let me go ahead and crank up this Martin right quick.
Look, I was ready. So y'all know I had it. Look, I haven't had a cocktail on the show in a long time for dieting purposes. But I promised my girl I was going to sit with her today. So
thank you. I'm like, because I used to 2 years ago. So I'm still definitely drinking.
If my hormones don't balance with alcohol and I start sweating, don't y'all worry about it.
If y'all drink tequila, please drink anejo. No blanco. you will be out all the time.
Icy said that is her sister.
That's my little sister. That's my little sister.
I know that's right. Yeah, that's pretty dope. And I think what I was saying with her before the show, that's another thing I love. I love bringing on. So first of all, in order for this hobby to stay stabilized, right, and people who in government not think we're a bunch of weirdos, they need to see the different faces and the skill sets. Like, our engineering money is paying your tax dollars, That's important because we're not just reptile people. Although I would tell you, for the most of us, our reptiles come first because mentally they stabilize us. We work to manage them. I mean, for those of us who, still have to work, I'll say I built my career to retirement early so I can be home with my reptiles as much as possible. People are cool if they reptile people. Outside of that, it's a limit of people that I can do, to be honest. Hey, Elias. Elias said, love seeing Puda on Instagram.
Definitely.
Is that another nickname?
Yeah, so Pudo, I have a nickname for all my snakes. So my first snake's name is Puddin, but I call him Pudo.
Okay,
that's cool. Name. So yeah, a lot of people know him by Pudo. So yeah.
All right. So share with us what you said. You definitely, we know you got the ball pythons, but you said that you definitely want to breed other reptiles. Can you share what other reptiles you are into or want to get into as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have a boa constrictor. Not too sure about her more, but I know she is like hypo. I want to say jungle and lipstick. I can bring her out too, but I'm more.
You bring her out, I can tell you exactly what she is. I'm a boa and retic more.
Oh yeah, and I'm definitely
identification.
And I kind of want to get into the boas birth as well because they do live birth, and I think that's so cool for them to do live birth. And just see that in front of your face and really see that come to fruition. So that's something I'm into. And boas to me are before I got my boa, I heard like, oh, they're really really timid and their temperament is all over the place, and you might get stiffed and which you can with any animal, right? But my boa that I adopted, I call her Quinzel. I have a big thing with Joker and Harley, as y'all see right up here, or this one. I have two pop things for the Joker and Harley up there. So those are like my main two characters that I love. So that's where Pudding comes from because
Okay.
people call Joker Pudding, like on that type of level. And then Quinzel was her name before she turned, to Harley Quinn. Her name was Dr. Quinzel. So that's where she gets her name from. And her temperament is very, very well. When I tell you, she stays out longer than the rest of my ball pythons. Like I can leave her around the house. That's my house snake. My boa is my house snake. I don't have to look crazy around for her. Now the ball pythons, on the other hand, yeah, I want to GPS into all of them. Like where y'all at? What y'all doing? Because they definitely move around a lot more. But my boa has opened up my eyes to want to breed her because of live and just those different type of localities. It gets super crazy. So
Yeah, I totally agree with you. In fact, everybody who I talk to about the retics and larger snakes in general,
yeah,
because they're bigger, they're more confident. So because they're bigger, more confident, they're actually less nippy. I've had baby ball pythons more nippy than I've never had a nippy retic. Never had one that just came out the bag biting. The only other nippy thing I had is Elias. Type it in the chat. I'm not even gonna mess with your boy today. I'm gonna let you say it. But I only had like that the ball pythons as babies in this thing that was nippy. My
right.
retics and my boas never. I had one boa when he was like when I got him, he was a really, really baby. He was a little timid, didn't like flashes around him. But the way you get them out of that real quick is handling them. They just gotta trust you.
Definitely.
They just gotta trust you. Once the baby trusts you, they're good. So that's cool.
That's true.
I'm actually breeding my hypo jungle motley sharp albino right now to my pastel dream sharp albino. So this will be my first boa breeding. I think it's funny how they are in the breeding, even compared to ball pythons, even with the retics. The retics, we've come to the conclusion we just have to breed T'Challa and Hefe because they really want to breed, and we came up with a theme and a reason that I can make this successful without dealing with my fear of the snakes getting in the wrong keeper's hand. Because for me, they're not just babies. They're going to be my babies, and I want to make sure they go to homes that's going to be taken care of like their parents have been taken care of. Definitely. But when we actually introduce them, not when they introduce themselves, because there was a point where they were just supposed to be playing with each other and then they were locked, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to pass out. So then he's in full breeding mode, and my husband said, just go ahead and let it happen, babe. So, and we got a plan for it. And so when we put him in, though, unlike ball pythons, this retic glided across to her like Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk, and they locked just like that, right in front of your face. Less than 2 minutes.
So it ain't too much. It ain't. You gotta sweeten it up.
They just do it. He knew when he came out, when he wanted to do his little, his little wee wee was just to go in, and he jumped in there. She opened her vent, boom, boom, boom,
and it was just like that.
2 minutes at the most. 2 minutes at the most. So I can tell you that it's just a certain confidence with the larger snakes that I love. But for me, for a mass production process, of course, ball python is the biggest and safest market as far as selling because they're easier to manage and take up less space.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What would be your dream animal?
My dream animal, I really do want a green Amazon tree boa, a nice little display snake. That's what they call it. I know they're kind of hard to handle, but that's one of them. And then on the venomous side, don't shoot me, but a gaboon viper. That's like my favorite, almost hands down. I have to have it.
So I love gaboon vipers. I love cobras. My only thing is I'm too clumsy for venomous keeping.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But when I go to the zoo, my husband will tell you, as a grown woman, 49 years old, the first animal I want to see in the reptile house is the gaboon vipers.
Definitely.
They're beautiful. They are beautiful. And then they so mystique. Like they look like they're slow. Kind of like the retics.
Exactly.
People say retics are slow. When a retic want to get from point A to B, it's a quick, like it's there. It's a big animal, but it's not slow by fall when it wants to get somewhere. So that's what I love about them. But yeah, I say to anybody that my only thing with venomous keeping is that it has to be responsible.
It has to
be your life or the life of someone who lives with you.
Exactly. Yeah.
But outside
And
of that, I see people who handle their venomous, again, it's a trust thing. It's no different. My only thing is that somewhere you got to get that cobra to trust you, right? So
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if I can go through that process.
It makes a lot of sense because I think his name on Instagram is Chris Sweets, and he has a
Yep.
bunch of cobras. And I mean, the way he interacts with them is like, bro, like you might as well say he's interacting with like a bearded dragon or something. How he just can easily touch them and easily give them water and stuff like that. And I know you can get to that point, but of course, with as severity as that venom can be, it's like, do I want to trust that type of deal. I do have some experience like around the Gaboon Viper and things like that. But I know it's going to take years training. I know you need your certificate to even keep it and things of that sort. And then of course have those things in your realm, anti-venom, things like that, which are super expensive to be sure that everything is safe. So, but hey, a dream is a dream. You never know. But I'm down for it.
What do you love most about the hobby?
What I love most about the hobby is just really being able to be as creative and free and informative as possible. It's 2022, so our technology is very advanced. So the fact that we have several different platforms that we can tell people different things about to bring awareness to this animal really is my favorite thing. Being female, being lesbian, masculine, and then also being my background as an engineer, like my team, I keep them, informed of what's going on with my snakes. And every time I get on a meeting, they say, tell me a fun fact. I always say, well, I have 9 snakes. And I always just bring awareness to the fact that I have snakes and the fact that I'm totally fine. I come to work every day. I'm never bandaged up. I'm never, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. And I just love to bring awareness to the animal. And then onto the creativity side, like, speaking on reels and things like that, I think that's cool too. You can do a different thing every day. You can put a snake here, you can put a snake there. You can be in the background saying different funny things, or you can just use a regular meme. And I think that's cool. And just the different morphs and the different colors. And just going deeper into the genetics is super, super crazy to me. Because of course, me being an engineer, when I first learned about genetics and allelics, recessive, codominant, I was like, oh my God, like, am I going back to biology? Where am I going with this? So I really love to learn. And I think that's another thing that I love about the hobby too, is I continue to learn something new every day, like every day.
This hobby has, well, like I'll say to anybody, I gave up a lucrative job earlier than what I expected to do. I'm grateful for that position, but my husband says it to me all the time, like, you're just so much happier now. Like, I'm living my dream, like a childhood dream. And it's crazy because, like, my mom and my sisters and my family, like, this has been me all my life. But to see me, like, living it out in the way, like, my house is almost a zoo, from the water monitors to the Ackies, to the big snakes. Like, it's just like I walk in here and it's like, definitely it's our home, but then it's like, our home, I can't tell you the last time I've been to the zoo, to be honest, other than when we're in a different state. And I'm right outside of the National Zoo. I'm 5 minutes from Washington, D.C. The zoo is right around the corner. Like, I have my own zoo in my house. So I get you like that. That is why I think that I try to nail to the wall that animals and reptiles specifically are so good for our psyche and our mental.
They are. Ooh, we can definitely touch on that. I definitely agree with that too. Especially being like kind of being spiritual with like different crystals and things like that. I know recently I put on my Instagram, I got my new black pastel breeding ball python, right? And she wouldn't eat, she wouldn't use the bathroom. I mean, nothing. Like, and this was for almost right at 2 months, right? So, when you first get a snake, it's like, okay, I bought you the breed. You come in. This is my first time buying a breeding female, and some of my buddies let me know, like, when you get her, she can either go super downhill real quick, or she may go downhill a little bit. You can get her back up there. So I knew I would have some issues, but being inside the actual issues was what had me. And I was like, okay, so everything is true apparently. Like, she's definitely that myth snake, right? So I grabbed a black obsidian crystal, black obsidian, of course, blocks negative energy, blocks any type of negativity that can come inside of anywhere. And I put it right in her water dish and just left her alone for like a week.
Yeah.
Came back, she used the restroom. That was perfect. Literally the week after that, she ate, and I was like, wow, that's so crazy. And before I put that in there, I couldn't really handle her as well. She was very, very timid. And then after I done that, picking her back up again, she started to get a lot more comfortable and things like that. So that kind of told me that if being spiritual and being connected with the universe, what these crystals are, bringing that energy, if I was able to put that in there with her and that helped her out, then how intuitive are snakes with the universe and with spiritual emotions? You know what I'm saying? And just putting them around me when I'm stressed, they kind of know, and they kind of give you a certain, tighten up and kind of shrink around you, and it kind of makes you feel a little bit more at ease. So I love it, and I really do think they kind of benefit, not kind of, but they do benefit the mental health when it comes to when people keep them the right way, doing the right thing to the snake. That energy is poured right directly back into you.
Yep. They intuitive. Yep. I always say that it takes a whole nother level of trust and loyalty to get an animal to trust and be loyal to you. Right?
Definitely.
You can't fake that. They can sense it.
You can't fake it. That's why I love the animals so much, because you can't. Like, you just can't. Even when putting them into somebody else's hands that might not have ever held a snake before, snakes are a little bit more timid. They get a little bit more stiff. But giving it to somebody that's completely aware, they know what they're doing. Snakes know how to loosen up. So they're very in tune with energy and with different humans and picking up on things. So definitely.
Agreed.
Definitely.
Now, how did you, as being a younger breeder, a newer breeder, how were you informed about US ARC for the first time? Or did you always know that US ARC existed?
Yeah, so I just found out about USARC actually when I made my Instagram page and started following different Instagram people. And then, of course, them with the new law of trying to actually stop, the reptiles being shipped over state lines and different things like that, cutting it down in different states. That is what blew my mind to it. And I was like, okay, well, what is this? And then I just found out, hey, this is another community that is really trying to bring awareness to what we do and that it is safe. And, all the other opinions of people saying, oh, them being in little tubs is not fine. And, just really not knowing the correct confinements of a snake. I got really interested into US ARC because they're protecting us and our hobby at the end of the day. So that's their biggest mission. And I really, really fell in love with it. Followed them, became members and things like that, because it's very important for you to be in this hobby and being and standing by somebody that's trying to protect you doing it at such a high level. So come on now.
Straight to USR.
Come on now.
Because, as a 49-year-old, I have 25 years on you. And what people don't remember is when, so I'll just say this, I'll sum it up because I talk about it so much and I don't want to beat a dead horse. But you would not have ball constrictors.
Exactly.
For USR. People don't remember that fight because a lot of people who are keeping now who don't understand the importance of USR, they are our younger generations. They don't remember when ball pythons was always under attack because back in the day, people thought ball pythons were the retics of the world.
Oh yeah.
And then retics started becoming popular. You know what I mean? So
right.
So now it's like, retics, ball pythons, or berms and ball pythons. But back then, ball pythons and berms was no different in the mind of the media, no different in the mind of legislation. So what I want to say, just take a moment since we on USARC real fast, and y'all heard it best out of the mouth of a 24-year-old woman who loves her reptiles.
Definitely.
There's no option. There's no option.
Definitely.
So the new message is you must be a member. And I'm going to tell everybody what's the benefit of being a member and not just donating. When USARC goes into these legislative meetings, and if they could say there's 1 million reptile keepers, and we have 950,000 of them as members, you shut down the government right now. You shut them because they're afraid if they go against us, to their career.
Definitely.
That's the importance of it. Just like with any other law. Like I laugh at Maryland now. How they are full force now with everybody because Maryland for a long time you can own a gun, but you could not carry You could not. And now that we can, like they're full force with it. But what they realize is that there are cities within Maryland, Baltimore, where I grew up being one, that people are doing some dangerous stuff as criminals. So we need our citizens to be prepared to protect themselves. And when the citizens started banging that message and they realized that people wasn't getting in office because, you know, they come up with those individual votes, they weren't getting elected. So now they changed their mindset. You know, we don't need them to believe us. We just need them to ride with us, you know? And so that's what membership do. That's what membership do for anything. You know, a golf course, doctor's office, whatever. Anything.
Right. Exactly. And I feel that. Thank you for bringing that up. That's very important because I know definitely the younger breeders, and you just enlightened me on that one thing where at one point you couldn't have boa constrictors. I wasn't aware of that, but bringing that into the younger breeders because this now is a new thing, and then bringing in pros and cons of technology here. When it comes to the cons, like bringing it onto social media, making it seem so easy in a way to keep reptiles, like we're only showing the highlights of it. You know, we're getting this into hands of other people. And then when people make videos, I became a millionaire in a year with, you know, leaving my snake, blah, 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 you know, just preaching different things on how you can kind of leave that to the side and become so real here. I think the cons of that is bringing in people that are only doing it for money. Like me, and I tell my friends all the time, I don't really care about getting the money from ball pythons. I just want to be a vendor at a show, bringing awareness. And we can talk about this all day, but how I felt going to my first reptile expo. The first one I went to was in Las Vegas, was completely different because, you know, Las Vegas is one area, but in Texas, we know the condensation, the racists and things like that we have in Texas that everybody is aware of. And when I went to my first reptile expo, I felt crazy. Like when I went back into the car, I felt so sad because I was like, you know, not that I walked up to tables and people were talking to me as if I never held a reptile or as if, you know, I didn't belong where I was. And I was like, yeah, I need to start breeding. I have to start breeding because bringing that awareness in to people that look like us is really my main goal of that. And then, of course, we're bringing that in. Talking about US ARC as well is very important, too. And, of course, I'm young, going to bring younger people to me when I go to these shows and letting them know to spread that word. Like, it's more than just posting a beautiful animal on a platform and getting attention. Is more than bringing reptiles to the show and only picking who you're going to speak to. It's about really bringing awareness to this community. And that's very important to me. So
I will say this to you. First of all, thank you for that perspective. But let me tell you something else that you have, the ability to articulate. And I can just share, I remember when I first got into reticulated pythons, there were so many, like no knocking to the men, but it was men. And it was a lot of non-colored men who did not believe that a woman could manage them to this magnitude. So I respect to all of my Caucasian brothers who give me mad support every single day.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let me tell you what's funny.
A lot of support too. Yeah.
What I love is some of them same people come to me for advice now about how I handle mine the way that I did.
Right.
I'm not mean because there are some days that I want to be like, no, you said this would never be possible. You said I would never be able to manage my retic without a hook. You said I'll never be able to touch my breeding male. That's why I shared certain reels, not to necessarily. I want people to see that it's possible because people want to tell you that it's not possible. It's people who made me think that it was impossible totally. So now people coming to me and I've mastered it and they come in to get advice. You have that ability because first of all, you're confident.
Yep.
You are very knowledgeable on reptiles and, you know, in your career, and you know how to tie those two together. But the ability to be able to stand and articulate as a 24-year-old, what you just articulated, everybody can't do that without getting too emotional or angry or, like you said, you went back to the car and you thought on it. You were emotional about it, but you could have acted out your emotions. And then it would have been like, oh, see, that's what I mean. You know, she's not cut out for this.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'll never do. I'll never do that. And that goes just back to me being an engineer. It's not a lot of me in my space. So, you know, even with internships, having to compete coming from an HBCU against a whole bunch of different Ivy Leagues and PWIs, like I always had to exert myself a certain way in order to just make sure that I'm heard. So I know how to really react in any type of situations when I'm told, when I present a report and they like, oh, well, we didn't even ask for none of this. You have to start over. Not am I going to get an attitude, but being able to be constructively criticized is very important to me. I really like to hang out with those that have that same mindset. So to be able to be like that inside of myself, that's what exerts outside of me. So, and I think that's kind of what helps me be able to bring my points across so well is just my background experience and then just my passion, honestly, with
yeah. And I would tell you, one of the reasons why I respect like the likes of Ozzy so much, and I can use him for example, because I'm blessed to be able to walk all through his home. And he has animals that he's had forever, not because he has animals he can sell for $50,000, but he won't sell it because he's so passionate about the animal. And the one thing he always expressed to me, that you're going to be successful just because you love them so much. Your passion is so much. And I think that, like, even as we talk about where everybody's like getting nervous about a recession, first, I've always known that when I did this, any income that I make from reptiles was going to be second to the love of the hobby, right? And my mortgage wasn't going to rely on it. So I'm not so stressed that, I had to sell my collection. That would never happen.
Yeah, that smart move. Yeah.
And that's where the passion supersedes the vision of the dollar.
Absolutely.
So I'll say to anybody, again, she nailed it. Like, I'm loving it. She nailed it. If you're in it for the money, I mean, don't get me wrong. Everybody love money. I love money. Look, I love separate streams of income.
I'm not going to say I don't. I feel like anybody that knows me know I love that dollar.
But I'm not sacrificing my love for the animals.
No, for real. Absolutely.
And I think that's most important. And I think that makes a difference between a mediocre breeder, a breeder who will stand through any economical turn, and people who just are cut out for it, because they love the animal. They want to create and preserve and conserve in the world what we love so much. And I think that's super dope as well. Yeah. So you talked about your first expo. What was that? Where was that? Was it in Houston?
My first expo was in Las Vegas. It was the Repticon. It was in Las Vegas. This was in 2021. I want to say it was in 2021. And it was so funny because I went on a girls trip with me and my friends. I'm the only one in the group that likes reptiles, right? When I tell you, I woke up, I was like, okay, y'all, I'm finna take the run on. I'm finna go to this reptile expo. When I tell you, they jumped up and was like, we going with you, and bought tickets. And me, I'm more masculine. My friends are more feminine type of deal. So, it takes time to do lashes, hair, put on your outfit, do this, do that. We in Las Vegas, so we not trying to, we just not going out willy-nilly. When I tell you they got quick, super fast, because I wanted to be there on time and went with me. They held snakes and bearded dragons and everything like that too. So that was super cool. But what I really liked about my first expo was being my first expo and being in Las Vegas. It was just on a bigger scale. So it was like 3 stories. It was in one of these buildings. I forgot the name of the building. But like one of the hotel conventions that they usually do it in. It was 3 stories. When we came up, people were super nice. The first floor, it had a whole bunch of different things that you can put inside, enclosure. So we had our substrate, our hides, and different things like that. And me going there, I was like, yeah, I'm never going back to PetSmart or any type of thing and buying anything because the stuff was super cheap. It was very, very cheap and whatever. And I literally started like almost calculating what I bought previously and what I could have spent right here and left with a Santa bag instead of a grocery bag. And I'm like, something ain't right here. So that's why I always know, okay, let me build my things up when I go to a show. Let me buy my things there. But besides seeing how big that was, it opened my eyes to all the other morphs that there were. I think before I went to Las Vegas, I maybe had 2 snakes. And me going around talking to everybody really opened my eyes to, okay, well, this is how you have your snakes. This is the pricing, the nice different setups. And I was like, wow, like, people were willing to open up and hand me their snakes. And then even after a while, like when I would go up to the tables, they would see how I was handling the snakes and they kind of would not even really look at me and just look at everybody else because I was doing it so well. I would hand the snake to my friend, make sure I got that snake, put it back in. I would even sometimes close and lock their stuff, just trying to build that relationship. Like, okay, if I want to be on the other side one day. This is before I went to the one in Texas where I was like, I have to breed, because the one in Las Vegas, it was so much more open, so much more beautiful. And with doing that, I kind of was like, well, wow, like these animals are really, really what people say they are. Cause it's like, no way I picked up 20, 50 snakes and not one of them nipped me or anything. So I was kind of surprised with that too, because I'm like, okay, maybe it's just my snakes. Maybe I just do them good. But I'm like, no, this is for real. Like, once you have that energy and that ability, they can pick that up. So that was my first reptile expo, and it was beautiful. It really opened my eyes, held a lot of beautiful snakes, from boas to ball pythons, bearded dragons. It was very, very nice, very, very awesome. And I think anybody that's in reptiles or interested, even if you don't have one yet, but you're still kind of looking around, go to a reptile expo, look it up, look for those breeders you want to go to, and then just go and talk. And that really did kind of put me where I am today, was by me going to my first reptile expo, for sure.
Yep, and it gets better and better. Like, have you ever been to one of the Tinley's or the Arlington shows?
I have to go next year. Arlington, I haven't been yet. Tinley, I haven't been. I didn't know Tinley was that popping until I seen it all on Instagram. And I was like, not that all these people that I'm following on Instagram taking selfies, like, is this a meetup? I didn't get my invite. Like, what's going on? So I have to be at Tinley next year. I have to.
Yeah. So for me, and I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
Tinley is the best for me. I think that Austin said it best the other night when he was on Mike's show. It's like a big family, like literally it's a family reunion. My husband, who is not the reptile person in his house, he becomes a reptile person in Tinley. He can't wait to get there.
No choice. Basically, when you get out there. Yeah.
Anything. And speaking of, guys, I'm actually going. My husband is going to be my guest on December 10th, next week's episode, because I want him to speak to. I'm asked a lot about how is it that he supports you and lets you, spend all the money that you spent and things like that. If he don't, it's not that he doesn't like reptiles. So I'm gonna let him talk about, it's just not his thing. Just like guns wasn't always my thing, right?
Yeah.
Except for protection. Now I'm like loving them all. So it's like we all have our things, and he's gonna talk about like that dynamic of embracing your partner's realities and passions, because that makes the marriage even better, and not just that, like how we've grown so much from a financial perspective and vision through him allowing me to do all those things. So I think it's really dope. And then a lot of people, other than like the people who are in Tinley, they never see my husband. He's like in the background, so it's gonna be kind of cool to interview him and hear him say things publicly, like for the first time. About like this whole experience, especially the last 4 years. Like I remember when I first told him I was getting a retake and telling him the snake had the potential to grow past 20 feet. And he looked at me like I was out of my mind. Now to the point where he's down here and like, hey, did you check on this one? Did you check on that one? Go down there and look at this and go like he's into it,
Yeah.
And I think that is absolutely phenomenal.
And I'll answer this question real quick. So Nameless Collector said they missed it. T. Morris, what animals do you work with? So I work heavily with ball pythons and just started breeding ball pythons. I do have one boa constrictor. So those are the animals that I work with the most are ball pythons. And then I have my one boa constrictor. So I have my little experience in that route with my one of my bigger snakes. But I like that you said that. So I know it's so funny because me being young and in that realm, a lot of my friends were scared of snakes. And my most recent girlfriend, she was scared of snakes too. But due to being around me so much, she has her own snake now. She bought her and she loves the snakes. And my mom was scared at first as well. And now she loves snakes, and I kind of want to talk into that. You opened a real good door right there. Is just being able to, what you do will pass off onto others, and that's with anything, any type of relationship, right? So I always handle my snakes, and I'm very serious about who I handle my snakes with. And when I say that, I mean, like, if I know you're scared of snakes and you come to my house, you will never know that I have a snake. But if I know that you have that type of open eye, and you're like, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't, and I'll let you. You know what I mean? But I don't want to continue to put fear in somebody that is fearful of them. But then I always want to bring that person out. Like, sometimes people will come over, oh, where they at? They not in the tank. And I'm like, no, did you want me to bring them out? I mean, because you want to see them. You came over here. It's 3 p.m. It's bright outside. They're not out. They're not dogs. They're nocturnal animals, so they're gonna come out more at night. But I do have some people come over. They see, like, okay, well, she's still good. Her house is still good. It's not like, it's rats running around everywhere. It's not stuff all over the place. So, it might be cool. So, and then usually before they leave, they always hold a snake and things like that. So I think just really how you can, just like you were saying, your husband may not have been too much of a reptile person, but he still shares his cares with you, is because it's like, if you do that passionately, and people that really genuinely love you feel that, and it's like, they have no choice. You know what I mean? Like, just like I was saying, my girlfriend never held a snake, anything like that, and she bought her own. And feeding snakes and things like that. It's a beautiful area and beautiful thing to share, definitely. So.
Absolutely. And it's important what you like. I'll piggyback on what you said. Like, one of the things is, if y'all ever watch the videos on my YouTube channel with my granddaughter, so I don't like we don't have a pre-conversation before I start recording her. So I never know what's going to come out her mouth. On my last video, I asked her about, well, what do you think if a snake bites you, or something like that led her into, and what she said was, well, if the snake bites, it's my fault. It's something I did wrong. And this is a 6-year-old going into telling you. And so that's important to, when you talk about inviting people in. So this is my mindset.
Go ahead.
I don't let anybody touch my snakes that's afraid, because God forbid if you drop my snake, my natural reaction.
Come on now.
That's my natural reaction.
Still out.
I don't like to do that specifically, but I'll tell you this: I will hand you a retic if you're afraid of snakes quicker than I would a ball python. Yeah. Because again, what I said, that retic is more confident. That retic is like, you're going to handle me right.
Yeah, you don't have no choice.
Right. I'm going to handle this whole situation. I don't need mama. So I'm going to handle this whole situation if you don't. And I think that every single time, though, that a person was willing, they immediately changed their mind. One of my favorite reels, and one of my most popular reels right now, is when my daughter came over. I gave my daughter one of our cars, and she brought her girlfriend over with her.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
I would never touch a snake. I would never touch a snake. Yes, you will. Here you go. And she sits there, she does like this, and then she does like this, and it was one of the desert ghost snakes. It was what my super OD desert ghost had pied. And she looks at it and falls in love with the color of the snake. She never knew a snake could look like that. And instantly you see her going from like terrified to like, ooh, look, like, wow.
Exactly.
And then after that, she wanted to see everything. She wanted to come in the big snake room. She wanted to see everything. I let the big snake out. And I think that's important to what you said.
I love when that happens. Actually, because I've had experienced that before too. People coming over being super shy, and then they fall in love with it. Like, some people are very, very. I know the difference between when people are afraid and when people are curious. Sometimes it kind of feels the same, but I definitely know the difference. Like, if somebody comes over my house and they're like, "Oh, well, where they at? Oh, well, what do they eat? Oh, well, this and that." I'm like, okay, I'm curious now. You know what I mean? Somebody's afraid, they gonna ask what a snake's at, and that's gonna be it. And I know, okay, we won't talk about them. I won't bring them out. It's cool. But I love when I can feel that curiosity, and for me to break that barrier down and just completely bring them in and open to it. Not saying you have to go buy a snake, you know what I mean? But, being able to come over to my house and just really enjoy me. And that's why I wanted to bring the awareness so big to my family. Because, see, when I left college, I had a snake. I had Puddin'. And I had to move back into my parents and started my full-time job. Then I moved out a couple of months later. But for months, when I was with my parents, I had my snake. Now, my dad is so funny. He don't play. My daddy don't play. But I tell you, that man would open up the threshold and be like, "Hey, good morning." Well, he came in there like one time. I think it was like once or twice. but he don't play. But he asks about them, and I did definitely kind of open his revenue when it comes to that. But my mom, very curious woman. Like my mom is like my twin, so it's like, anything that I'm doing, she want to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So she's like my second person. So, she
That's
did
awesome.
hold Pluto. She's held him. Like she will wake up, we wake up. She would come in my room, talk to him first, and then turn around and talk to me. And I'm like, I know you didn't. And that just comes from me, handling it around her. So I opened that aspect up with my family, because it's like these animals are me. So I feel like you can't really, embrace me without embracing my animals. And I'm very, very big on that. Like people that talk negatively about my animals around me, like we just won't be hanging out as much, because it's, that's just my mindset. Positivity around everything that I'm doing. So,
and that's why we have this community, right? So one of the things about having a community full of reptile people is you don't have to explain yourself. It is what it is with us.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
I don't
Even
have
when
to
we see people with like venomous, like that's not my thing, but with like Mark Reptiles, I love watching everything he do, because I'm amazed that like the one day he had the sidewinder. This man had a sidewinder. Y'all know what a sidewinder is, sliding across the living room floor. Like I'm like, being a girl growing up watching Animal Planet and things like that, it's like this is cool as crap. I don't have to have one, but watching it is amazing. But even with some of his cobras, Tyler, the ability to handle them animals through their intelligence is amazing. So they don't have to explain themselves to me, right? Same thing with the big lizards. Like I love the big lizards. I'm not a Komodo type of girl, but the Asian water monitor, the sables, the Ackies, I find them amazing to watch, handle, engage, how they communicate with me, like how my water monitor can hear when my husband is pulling up and I don't even hear the car yet. So he'll literally like go and look, and then I know I'm about to hear my husband's car coming. It's insane.
It is.
It's insane. And I think when you allow people, like you said, the curious people to see those type of things, that's what intrigues them.
Bingo.
It's not the fact of, what I don't, this is why I'm not a fan of people who force that snake on people, or people who show like snakes biting and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I think educational videos to show you that this is what happens when a retic does bite, and this is the why they did it, and what you do to prevent it. I love those type of videos, but I can honestly say that I have none of that concern with any of my animals. Not that, just like I have 2 dogs too. I know not to. My Rottweiler, for example, he's a big puppy dog. But I know that if I'm letting somebody in a house that he never seen before, regardless of how puppy dog he is, I gotta put them on guard or hold him to figure out, is he good with that person? You know what I mean? Like
it's not my dog don't bite and then it bite me.
Right? No.
Control it.
He's protective. He's very much protective. We ain't gonna do that.
Definitely.
Never put nobody in a situation where my dog bites somebody, then it's national news. Rottweiler bites lady, and then Rottweilers these monsters. That's what we get at pit bulls, unfortunately. My mom has huge pit bulls. Beautiful pit bulls. My grandkids sit with them like it's not an issue. That's what people should see, to see that that is what they are if they're raised right, just like your children. You can birth children. I can take the same baby with the same DNA, put it in this household, and and they can come up with totally different behaviors depending on how they raise. So that's important. It said, Rod said, it took me 8 months for my girl to hold this snake. Now she loves him. I didn't force her. I helped her get comfortable. Absolutely.
And that's what's so important. You can't force. Like the forcing, to me, is what will keep those bad condensations out there. And I'm not even shaming nobody or anything, but like a lot of the prank videos that I see, I'm very 50-50 with those, because sometimes, of course, they're pre-shot and things like that. But for people that are actually scared of snakes and then kind of don't commonly sense stink and see, when people go drop Burmese pythons on somebody, or when they're sleeping, wake up to a snake screaming and hollering and all that, like, to me, I don't really like seeing videos like that because that continues to push the stigma of what we want to continue to turn the other cheek from.
And
So
it's not safe for that animal.
it's not. It's not.
If you put a snake on somebody and let's say they push that snake, you're gonna break that snake's spine. I don't care how big the snake is. And so again, we invest in our animals, right? Like you said, you go, you buy the snakes, you spend money. You want them to live their entire possible
all 15, 30 years.
Right, exactly. I need your whole life, right?
I need everything.
Yeah, you cannot and you can't be mad at a person because again, what I don't like about it is I'm a fond believer. Actually, a recent video that Jay Brewer posted, and he put this big berm around this man, and this man could have damn. You can see the fear in him. This is a grown man, and he lost it like a baby. You can call somebody that had an instant heart attack and with that type of shot. It's not funny. It's not funny. And like you said, though, on the opposite side, it just doesn't show our animals in a good light at all. It doesn't. What the human did made it look like the animal did it. If that bird had just constricted him out of his reaction, then the news wouldn't have been that
they would have ate that one up quick. They would have ate that one up quick. Yeah, just like that one video that got viral and people still going around where I don't know what snake the lady had. I don't know if it was an anaconda or Burmese, but basically she was in a room, right? There was a big tank and the snake was coming up to the top. And she was like, "Oh yeah," and opened it up and stuck her hand out, and a snake wrapped up. And
it was a retake. So that's one of my all-time favorite. Actually, y'all, Kevin McCurley has a video where he breaks down that entire video, and it's an educational video, but it makes me laugh.
Definitely.
As a retake owner, okay, anybody who owns a retake will tell you that if you knew anything about that animal. She said, "Hey, sweetie." That wasn't a "hey, sweetie" moment at all.
That was
when you don't open the door.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, she should have known better. People send me that video all the time, and I'm like,
it makes me mad. Right. It was so much wrong. First of all, the animal was housed incorrectly. So go back to what we said earlier. If you don't keep an animal in the proper keeping, you will cause psychological issues for your animal. Number two, she had rats. Now, don't get me wrong. I can bring out food in front of my retics, but because they're so conditioned to not reacting because of how I feed them, they're fine. But everybody not there yet. And if I had a younger retic, I wouldn't try that with because a younger retic is still very food driven. So you got to know what stage your animals are in too. But in that particular video, she got rats right there in the room with the animal. So combination of the way he moved. No retakes for everybody in the audience. If a retake come at you full force, they up to something. Always. If they're not coming at you full force, then you're pretty good. Like even when they strike their food, they strike it. They don't. You know what I mean? Like, no. So that video is a perfect example. But what I did love about that, like what they didn't show, what they should have shown is that lady actually wanted the recording to, because at first I'm like, why the hell she wanted to keep recording? She wanted the mistake that she made to be shown. But what she didn't do was to come out with another video that where she kind of should just came out and educated people about the moments that went wrong and like even how they got the retic off. You don't pull a retic off. They have serrated teeth. She could have used cold water. She could have used alcohol. So many things she could have used. Like for me, I had my pod one time literally go for his food and bite himself by mistake. Now he's sitting there trying to constrict himself. Like I'm like, fool, you're biting yourself. So he just took cold water, poured it on, and he just let go. And then he went for his food, knowing the proper things to do. And that comes with just being educational. And I don't think you should be doing those type of videos until you've mastered it. Like I didn't do videos showing me touching retics without a hook until I was 110% sure that I had them conditioned that way.
Yeah, same with me. Just like even with feeding videos, like I just started doing that recently is because I just felt comfortable enough with, how my snakes interact around food. But that's definitely a good one. You have to know your animals. You got to know your animals. And yeah, I'm glad she posted that for a learning lesson because it definitely was one. It definitely was.
So who is your favorite animal that you have now?
My favorite one? Okay. Yeah, I'll bring her out. I'll bring it because I am breeding right now, so not all my babies are eligible.
Yeah, don't disrupt the bump and grind. Don't disrupt the. Hey, Tammy.
If Pudo wasn't breeding, it would be him. But this is my second favorite. So this is my boa. It's my
That's definitely a hypo jungle. I don't see. Let me see the head and the tail. Is it? It's not a motley, but it might be call. It's definitely call. It's definitely a call boa.
Wait, what is that? The KO?
Call, the line of so you got two lines of boas. You got the call and shark with the albino, with the head up with the albino gene. Yeah. That's definitely call. But that's beautiful. I definitely have there's another gene in there probably too. I just can't really see it, but that's definitely a jungle.
Definitely. Yeah, I've heard jungle, several times.
Definitely hypo jungle. Like I have a hypo jungle motley. If you saw her, they look very much alike, except for mine has the motley in it. So it's like a real bold stripe that goes down the back end of the tail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is one of my favorites. So the reason why is because I adopted her. This was last April, I want to say, or May. From some truck drivers. And it's so funny because I got her off Craigslist, actually. And I know people are like, don't buy animal off Craigslist. Which I've seen why. But
we all start, we don't know that. Like we don't know. Like I didn't my favorite snake in here is not from a breeder. My spider ball came from a pet store. It wasn't PetSmart, but it came from a pet store.
Right. And she's my favorite because you know of how I got her. So I adopted her from some truck drivers. They loved her to death, right? Very, very emotional when I gave her up, and we still keep in contact to this day. But the reason why she's my favorite is because I heard so many condensations about a boa, and she's completely opposite. Like she's been in photo shoots before. She's very, very calm. I mean, as you can see, like I said, she's my house snake. She, kind of just goes around all the time, hangs on to me very, very well. Like, I mean, I don't have ball pythons.
They smart. Boas are smart.
Go over there. You know what I mean? But I mean, she definitely can hold her own weight. And I really like that about her. And then her colors at the end of the day, with her being that hypo jungle, to me is just super cool. Like, just that tail, that iridescent that she has. She's just different. And that's why that's my favorite, because she's just very different. And we do have a good relationship too. We watch TV a lot together. So yeah. She's definitely.
So what are your ultimate? What is your goals with breeding? What is your goals? Do you think that it's something you would ever want to do full time, or always just like a side
hobby? So for right now, I know I want to get. I just started in the tech world, and I kind of want to get all that I can, and then I don't mind because I really want to retire by like 40. Right? I want to be done by 40, and if I'm done before that, let me be done before that. But and I do want to, at one step in my life, become a full-time breeder. But for right now, I definitely just want to be able to at least have a vendor table and be able to give awareness of these animals. That's kind of my biggest thing as of right now to start off with me being fresh. But of course, at the end of the line, I would definitely not mind at all waking up every day and working for me, and working for my animals, loving my animals, being passionate about it, and making sure that the snakes that I provide to the people are quality, and of course that I'm providing them to quality people as well. So,
which is again very important, because you don't create these beautiful animals to go in the hands of people who don't want to properly take care of them.
That's the scariest thing to me. So just a quick question for you though. When it comes to you selling and breeding, what are your signs to be like, okay, no, I might not sell this snake to this person?
So I think it's a conversation, for example. And I'll use it because I have so many different animals, right? So I'll use what I think are the most difficult, the most intelligent animals, which would be the retics. The ball pythons, for me, as long as I can come and show you how to properly set one up and tell you what to feed, you're probably safe, right? That or the corn snake. The corn snake, probably safe.
Yeah.
Reticulated pythons, though, for example, my main things is your ability to feed them. They are expensive to feed. They are expensive at an earlier age, and then as they get older, they slow down.
Okay.
Yeah. You keep giving them, and when they get older, they eat less. So you give them bigger food, but they can hold that food for a longer period of time. But when they are younger, you feeding them almost every 5 days, 7 days, 10 days. And you must feed. If you want a happy retic,
Oh yeah,
feed
you
them,
must
right?
feed. Yes.
But when they get older, my question for that customer would be, what is your ability to house them? What is the square footage of the area that you plan on keeping them? How many do you plan to have? Those are the questions, because even now, like my largest enclosure is a 10 by 4 by 4.
Mm-hmm.
The reality of it, 15 years from now, that snake that's in that enclosure may need a 20 by 20 by 20. So when I tell people right now that when they say you want a retake, no, I don't have the capacity. It's not that you're not going to walk in this house and see space.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
problem
yeah.
is I have 8 retakes that I got to think about, because this is my home. We got a
Right,
mortgage.
right. Yeah, the bed got to go
like
somewhere.
another 20 years to pay for it.
Exactly.
So we in
Right.
this buddy for 20 years. So I got to think about 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the line, because I don't rehome anything, of having the excess space for them as well. Or like right now, we have 4 that's going to be upgrading in January to bigger enclosures. Because I think that way, it's not a burden on the household, or my husband or the family for a space. And it's never going to be a situation where, I got to get rid of 3 of my retics because I don't. No, you think about that shit before you.
No, but for real though, like I haven't rehomed the snake yet, and I don't ever plan on doing it.
So let's talk about that. There's a reason.
Let's talk about it. So
you mentally disturb your animals when you take an animal that you raise. It's no different from a dog. These animals are very sentient beings. They understand who is who. Definitely. They know who. If you ever want to see, and I got to show this to anybody, and I'll use me and my son. There are certain retics that prefer, not what I say prefer, they favor my son over me, and there's some that favor me over him. So T'Challa, if right now T'Challa didn't want to come out right close and I need to get her out, all I got to do is go call Michael. She see Michael, she ready. She ready to come out all of a sudden.
Girl snakes have like better relationships with males, and male snakes have better relationships with
I believe it's, I said that. I believe that it's definitely hormonal, or they can pick up those things,
Yeah, that energy.
So you take that animal out of a home that they condition to how, like these animals know when lights go on, lights go off. They know that this dog sound this way, this dog sound this way. They know that, that's the water monitor. This water monitor is going to do this when they walk through the room. The table is going to do this. Like they know all of that. You take that snake and then put it with somebody else who maybe don't even handle it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or don't handle it as much as you would. You know what I mean? Exactly. That's not fair to that animal. Those animals love the animals who like to come out and be touched. They love that. They fall in love with it. It's a big part of who they are. So then the person say, I got this snake and it won't eat now. And you ask, well, how old is the snake? Well, it was 5 years old. It was just rehomed to me. How are you keeping it? Have you talked to the previous owner to find out the routine for that animal? Exactly. Because that's the first thing it's going to do. No animal who do not trust you or its surroundings is going to eat. You know why? Because even in the wild, they can't move with a full belly. And I got to defend myself. I got to make sure that my stomach is empty. That educational piece is so important. So no, I don't believe in rehoming snakes. I am very reluctant to move a snake from one enclosure to the other. And what I mean by that, like, I'm not going to take a ball python that's like Busy. Busy has always been in the enclosure that he's been in. Yeah. So I'm not going to take him out of there and put him in a PVC. I don't know if he's going to like that at that particular point. Now, all the other ball pythons that I have as pets, they were never in like one enclosure for 5 years. So I'm okay with, you grew up in this one, I'm going to put you in that one. And you got to think about that type of stuff. So I always, even down to the breeding ball pythons, I only move them when they have to move. Because, or if you put them in one position, let's say if you get it and it doesn't eat for some time, then I'll move it to see if it will eat in another location. Something like that. But again, it goes back to the fact that the snake was more comfortable to eat in that
other environment. Exactly. And that just goes back to what I was talking about, my breeding female that I brought in, Aphrodite, how she just wasn't eating. It was a bunch of things that, didn't use a bathroom, just wasn't comfortable. And that's one thing why rehoming snakes is very, very iffy when it goes to giving them away. Now, I haven't been in the position to where I would give a snake up because I don't have that many, but I do kind of want to speak on bringing in rehome snakes. Unfortunately, I'm against that too. Now, I did adopt her, but this was the only snake that I bought that was owned from somebody else. Wait, I have two rehome snakes, but I trusted the other one that I rehomed, the normal ball python, because I was actually helping her take care of it. So at the end of the day, I was already the stepmama. I just was, and then I just brought it in. But I'm kind of against rehoming only because or bringing in rehome animals, because you never know what that snake has. Like, you can't see Nido, you can't see a respiratory infection. I mean, you can hear it, but you can't really see it that well. And to bring that into your home around your other animals, you don't know what you're causing for that person to come in. And then, also with rehoming, some people are saying certain morphs, and if you're not 100% certain on morphs, especially in ball pythons, they can get super crazy super quick. You have some that can make a snake that looks a certain morph, or either way, you know what I mean? So like paying that rehoming fee to somebody that said they found this snake, they throw these morphs on there, and then you pay that amount. And then, say for example, down the line, you may breed or whatever, it might not have been hip high. It might not have been hit clown. You know what I mean? So it kind of is a whole nother level of a bunch of different scams that go on in the community today over social media when it comes to rehoming as well. It's just a danger financially to me, and just health wise within the
and something about growing up an animal that you always knew what it eat, what it
definitely.
ate, what its younger behavior was, watching it grow, and things like that. Like even down to planning what happens after your death. Because at the end of the day, none of us are promised tomorrow. So that's something me and my husband talk about all the time. Like what happens with my animals? Because he's not capable of taking care of all of them, but he knows there's certain ones that must stay in our home. And he, my son to take care of them. There's certain ones that goes to my nephews, certain ones that go here. Like like the ball pythons, he knows it's called Keys. Keys is going to help you determine what we should do with all of my breeding ball pythons and stuff like that. So I think that people don't think out that, like with my turtles. At the end of the day, the turtles is going to outlive every animal that I have, and including us. So what do I do? Who do I will them to? That type of stuff is very important, and that's the difference when of people who are just buying animals and people who are passionate and really love their animals, because you treat them like a family member. You treat them like part of your actual existence. It has to be a plan for everything. They're not just like you said, they're not just for cute pictures. There are some animals that I forget people have never seen that I have. People always say, well, don't you have this? Don't you? I do. I forgot. Y'all never seen that. Let me show you. Like that's very, very important to do. So one of my so I'm gonna go down to a couple of my final questions, and one of the ones I always like to ask, because for me, I wish somebody had told me at 5 years old, especially my mom, because you knew I love these animals already, to say, Nicole, focus on learning more about breeding so you can already be rich by 18. I think I missed the whole loop on that. But if you were talking to your 5-year-old self very specifically about life with reptiles, what would you say to yourself that you didn't know at 5?
What would I say to myself? I feel like, okay, so mindset of a 5-year-old, I would have to go and just tell myself to like just be you and don't care about the opinions. And with this life, with breeding reptiles, we hear a lot of different things like, oh, well, just different questions. Oh, well, how many snakes do you have? Well, are they going to eat you? Like, oh, you feed them rats? No, I'm feeding them cotton candy and grapes when they ask. What you think I'm doing over here? So really just like telling myself, just stand your ground and be you regardless. And being you regardless is going to take you so far on what you really passionately want to do. And that's definitely what I tell my 5-year-old self. Like, don't care about what people tell you. Just put your best foot forward in what you want to do. And I think that's very important, because to me today, for example, when I post on Facebook, which I rarely do because of all about my snakes, just because of, like I have family and friends on there that are very, very scared of the animal. And sometimes when I post on there, I have to be like, okay, PS, like, don't say anything that's not supportive, stuff like that. And I feel like if I would have heard that encouraging word back in the day, I'd be posting every day. I don't care what y'all say, unfollow me. If you got my number, I hope you got my number. And if not, then just unfollow me. You don't have to see the content. But I'm kind of skeptical on some platforms of what I post, because I know everybody does not want to see a snake on their timeline all the time. So that's definitely what I would tell my 5-year-old self. Like, TYanna, just go out there, be you, and the people that follow you will, the people that won't will drop off. So.
And as a new breeder, what would be, if someone was watching this video on the playback, what would be the ultimate message that you would want to leave with them as a new breeder, or if not necessarily as a new breeder, as someone who's watching this video who wanted to learn more about reptiles? What would be that lasting message that you want them to get out of this podcast?
For new breeders, number one, be prepared. It's more than just putting a male and a female in a tank together. When it comes to feeding, when it comes to weight, when it comes to how they look, because you can have a snake that's to weight, but they may be obese for that size, or just for how they look, their body shape might not be exactly where you want it. And then that might not be well for you. You're going to have lazy ball python. So be prepared, have everything you need to, and do your research. So you need to know you need your incubator. You need to know if you want your temps to drop, around what time do you start. Definitely research. This breeding stuff is not something that you can just go in willy-nilly. It's a lot of passion, it's a lot of research, and it's a lot of seriousness and documentation. Knowing when you put this one in, knowing the pairings that you want to do. Even at the end goal, one of my snake mentors told me, she said, always think of your dream snake, and every morph that you get needs to at least be towards that route. Not too many morphs that you need, just knowing that girl and boy ratio. I can go deep, but just be prepared and document and be organized with everything that you do. And also, just like first time reptile keeper, anything like that, I know it's shunned upon in a lot of ways, but I feel like the most people that are successful in this world were shunned upon at one point in time. People that are geniuses are hard to understand. They're very misunderstood. So for you, there we go. So for you to step outside of what other people are comfortable with seeing you do, I think that'll be a whole nother different thing. So just be confident. Like, all new breeders, all new reptile people, be confident as possible. And I think that'll definitely set people apart.
And last question is, who are the top 3 people in the ball python or the breeding world that has inspired you to be who you are and where you are in the breeding processes today?
For sure. So number one, I have to shout out to Morph Mechanics. That was the first person I bought a snake from. And I'm talking about before I bought Puto, we were going back and forth like best friends. He was telling me everything. Like, he taught me how to set up my first ball python enclosure from Instagram messages. And this was back 2 years ago in April. So that's definitely my number one. He encouraged me to start breeding for sure. My second favorite, I got to shout out to my homeboy, Creative Reptiles. He does a lot of things and does a lot of good content. He lies, man. He was one of the first people like reach out to me and let me know what it is. And then being in that LGBTQ community, we kind of related on the different things too. Just when it comes to pronouns, different things like that, which is something very important to me. And I respect him gratefully. And he always slides up and let me know what it is. And it's this one other dude. And sorry if I get his name wrong. I know Dre. I do want to shout out to DW Exotics too, because that's my.
You don't have to shout her out. Move on.
But it's this other dude. I forgot. He's also African American. He's bald head, but he has a great beard, and he makes funny like videos, like funny reels and videos when it comes to snakes. And I'm sorry I forgot his name, but he's very big too. Just his content makes me want to just continue to make content with kind of showing my face in it. He kind of made me feel like, okay, well, the animals is one thing, but show who you really are. Like, show that you're funny, because I'm a very funny person. Anybody that know me, like, I'm top 3 funny people. So I feel like
top 3 funny people.
I just need to start showing that side of myself as well when it comes to my reptiles. So those are definitely my top 3.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you for doing the interview. First of all, I will say that if anything that I can get out of our first encounter, you never know who's watching you and who's finding you amazing. So always stay amazing on stage and off stage, because you never know who, may be watching. And again, I think that for me, I'm inspired by the younger generation that comes into this. And I'm more inspired when they're just so intelligent. And when I mean intelligent, I'm not talking about book smart. Like, your mother did a damn good job. Okay, like at 20, you don't meet a lot of 24-year-olds today who are so firm on their foundation, so focused, are engineer. I mean, just it's that you can't get them to come to work, let alone stay in school long enough to obsess that degree. So
Exactly.
it's just very amazing to see someone and then just being who you are. So that's one of the things I love about people, period. I don't care what you are, who you are, just be consistent to that. So I know how to deal with you, or respect you. Like one of the things you mentioned, Elias, so Elias was the winner of my Tinley flight, Now, before that, Elias has always been a person that followed me and, there was mutual respect. But I remember the first message where you talk about the pronouns, right? And Elias say, hey, Nicole, I'm going by Elias now and not Camille. And I'm like, okay, from that moment.
Exactly. All right, Elias.
Like, there wasn't no questions or anything. And, and everybody, it goes back to what you said. People will respect who you are if you respect who you are and you stay firm in it. Definitely. And that's where, for me, I like real people. Be genuine. Be who you are. Definitely. It may not be for everybody, but you for me, if you just being who you are. There are people who literally, in a positive way. Now, if it's negative, I'll cut negative off at some point. I try hard. I do, but I'll cut negative off. But you can have an opinion. You can have an opinion. And
you can have an opinion, but your opinion can't always be negative, though.
Exactly. That's exactly. That's where Nicole's like, she throws in the towel. But I will say, kudos to your family. Thank you all who came through and supported.
Yeah, thank you for everybody who came through. That was lovely.
I think Keith said earlier that he didn't know you was on Instagram. He tried to tag you. So I know Bosa had dropped your contacts multiple times.
Yeah, I follow Keith on Instagram. Yeah, I'll definitely.
Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram name is _TMorphs_ on Instagram. Facebook is TMO Morrison as well. So you can find me on there as well. I don't really have a Facebook page on Facebook specifically. I don't have a snake page on Facebook specifically, but I do talk about my animals on my personal page. And then just like I said at the beginning, I have a LinkedIn as well. I'm very big on the educational route. TYanna Morrison. And you can find that on LinkedIn as well. TYANNA Morrison, MORRISON on LinkedIn. And yeah, that's my Instagram page. I try to post content like at least 3 to 4 times a week, if that, a couple of different reels, bringing some swag, bringing some youth like things, and just showing that, snakes can live really, really anywhere besides just out in the wild, of course, and then bringing awareness to different things. Feeding, I show feeding. I also show different things like getting them ready for new tubs when I bring in new snakes, how I put them through their quarantine phase, just different things like that. So yeah, very educational. Hit me up once again, _TMORPHS_. So that's TMorphs on Instagram. Thank everybody for coming. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I just want to shout you out right quick. I've been following her on Instagram for a little bit. For about a couple of months now. And I'm like, wow, another person that I see that's like me. She's doing her thing, lots of animals. Always been very intrigued by your page. And also I've watched these shows as well. But I don't want to say that I'm timid, but I like to wait my turn, if that makes sense. So I never want to overstep. So I never DM'd you and was like, oh, I want to be on this because I know I'm new to this. And a lot of people on the show, to me, were a little bit more superior. But that's one of my weaknesses. I always think that I'm not where I'm supposed to be, if that makes sense. So I just never reached out or anything like that. And when you reached out to me, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah, I'm always watching. Like I said, I'm always amazed. And if you really go back and just look at all 44 of the Reptiles and Cocktails, I would tell you that most of them are you. They're not a lot of, I leave like the big breeds and stuff like that to my boy Keys. Like I try to make the platform a little different, like, and I kind of like mix it up and things like that. Because I think what we fail to realize is that, again, what I said in the beginning, The yous of the world is way more important than the me's, the Aussies, the Kevins, and all of them. We're going to die off. Like, we are half a century. We're going to die off.
And you got me thinking about that too. I need to think when it's my time to say I'm out, then I need to have a whole plan going on. I need to have a lot of
exactly. How was you at one point who said, when I was a little younger, I think I was like 21. And I remember, and my boss, the day that I announced my retirement, she and my old VP said, you said this. I said I would never work past 55. So to hear you say 40, you know, that's awesome. I said I would never work past 55. God blessed it, and he set it up where it was 49 for me. So dreams come true.
Oh, definitely.
And that's my thing. That's if I can give anybody a message, like when I tell you that I'm living my, to the point that sometimes it's emotional. You know, like to the point sometimes I wake up. Keys and them was joking with me one time about our private chat that when I was working, I would be up in the morning. Now I don't chime in until 10 o'clock and stuff like that because I'm waking up.
I'm about 7, 8. I'm up by 7, 8 creating rules. Not posting until 11:30 because I know we're not up by 11:30.
Right, you know, but it's a blessing, and I just think for me, and one of the things I try to teach my granddaughter, which I wish someone told me at 5, my granddaughter know that you got to run this business, and I'm making her a little reptile beast. So if something ever happened to me, even when she'll be 7 in March, at 7, she can come over here and help my son run this thing, you know? So it's absolutely awesome. So don't ever think that, and that's to everybody out there, the younger generation in the reptile world. First of all, I would say to you, you need to be a member of US Art. That's number one. If you want to own reptiles, breed reptiles, educate about reptiles, that's so important. I think that's going to be number one in where your future is in reptile hobby. But don't ever think, and I had to learn that myself. Like, I'll use Ozzy and Kevin for example. When they met me, they thought I was magical. You know, like they thought I was unbelievable. Couldn't believe somebody like me existed. And that taught me a lot. And so what I try to tell people is that you are great in your own right, in your position that you're in today. And that something you say to somebody else, younger or older, can inspire them to be greater than they are. I'm surrounded by people daily that teach me new things about a hobby that I've been doing for 31 plus years now, you know? And I think that is going to always be the case. It's absolutely amazing that we get to love each other like this. Like it's true, it's natural love. Like, you know, me and you, the first conversation, we started chatting.
It was nothing.
We just going back and forth, you know? That's what's special about this, you know? You don't get this nowhere else in any other hobby. Like you don't. Like that. The fact that just because you got a snake and I got a snake, or you got a lizard and I got a lizard, we got love for each other. Definitely, it's magical. So that's what I want the person who's watching this playback to understand, especially if you don't own reptiles. It's an amazing community. We are on a mission to continue to grow it. And, you know, keeping your family in tune to what you're doing. Like to see the comments of how your family view you and how they respect you. You know, to hear your mama say, you know, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what you, if you got a compliment from your mama, that's what
that was dope. Mama, come on now.
Super dope. So to everybody in chat, thank you. I knew this was going to be like just a phenomenal one. Like I said, it hits my soul when I have that communication with people. So I thank you. We want to say goodbye, everybody. Give you your Saturday back, but you stay on for just another minute for me.
Oh, I sure will.
All right, everybody. Peace.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.